Someone recently reached out and asked me, what's it going to take to cancel Meghan and Harry? It was at the height of the Invictus Games, where certain publications like the Daily Mail would release upwards of 22 articles per day on Meghan Markle's fashion choices and commenting on how loved up and happy the couple seem. So, considering that environment that existed a couple of weeks ago, it was a plausible question, at least in my mind. So, with this in mind, and of course considering the catastrophic car chase, Jussie Smollett style of fakery that they orchestrated, trying to cancel the entire British monarchy, smearing Queen and Country, going after their own families on a public scale, I answered the question with a simple, I don't know. Perhaps their royal connections are keeping them afloat no matter what they do. But as the Invictus circus died down, the fog started to lift, and I reconsidered. As a starting point, I would like to declare that I am not a proponent of cancel culture. In fact, that's why I put it in quotation marks, and I will probably keep using air quotations every time I use that word. But usually, just for the sake of discussion, for one to be cancelled, they must have a career or a platform of sorts that is vulnerable to cancellation. We see it happen all the time, whether you're a Hollywood celebrity or a YouTube content creator or even an Instagram model. Everyone with a platform or a career, especially one in the public realm, is vulnerable to cancellation. Whether they deserve it or not is a different discussion. But what if the people that you are trying to cancel don't have a career to speak of? What if they exist in a different realm entirely? Just simply famous for being famous. Filthy rich individuals who never have to worry about making a single cent for the rest of their lives, assuming they don't squander their wealth, thereby rendering themselves practically immune from cancellation as long as they continue to want to exist in the public realm. To answer that, I think it's first important to distinguish between forced cancellation, which is what I just described, and incidentally, is something that Meghan and Harry practically do for a living, canceling other people, including their own families, versus simply allowing individuals to cancel themselves. The former, I don't condone, as I said, but the latter, we've got nothing to do with. It's simply life taking its course in a process that we humans like to call karma. From my observations over the past century or so, if you're new to this channel, you know, I hail from the 1920s. Well, I should say I was born in the 1920s, and you see the 1940s version of me quite often. So I've seen a lot. And I've come to learn that one of the hallmarks that make one seem immune to cancellation is shamelessness. You see, a shameless person never quite understands when they're not wanted anymore, or at least they don't seem to care. And it is this shamelessness, coupled with, of course, delusions of grandeur and a gross sense of entitlement, that renders them immune to cancellation in the sense that they simply won't go away. But notice how I keep using the word seemingly, because while it may seem that Meghan and Harry, for instance, because the question was related to them, get a lot of coverage, even positive coverage, a lot of publicity, a lot of attention, if you actually pay attention, you will realize that all of these things are self-generated. Take their latest appearance in New York City, for instance, where they shamelessly had the audacity to involve themselves at the World Mental Health Festival and talk about the ill effects of bullying and harassment, you know, two things that they excel at themselves. Sure, they got coverage from the usual culprits like People magazine and the Daily Mail and W magazine and Us magazine, all these, you know, the tabloid trash that are clearly in their pockets. But aside from this handful of tabloids, no one else really cared. There was no fanfare, no screaming and clamoring for autographs and pictures. Heck, they weren't even an afterthought in the more serious publications that actually have gravitas behind their name. And that's a far cry from the heights of popularity that these two once enjoyed not so long ago. So that's one aspect, self-generated publicity. But then there's another aspect, which is really relevant when it comes to Meghan and Harry in particular. Self-generated events. Think about every single time we see them in the public sphere, whether it's a pap stroll, whether it's the Invictus Games, whether it's this Archwell Foundation's involvement with the Mental Health Festival, whether it's the Netflix series, the book, the Flopcast. Every single time we see them is a self-orchestrated event. But aside from those, and of course I forgot to mention the pseudo-royal tours that they keep throwing, in their fruitless efforts to compete with actual royalty, when are they legitimately being stalked or followed by the media and covered due to a genuine demand for them? Answer: never. The reality is, nobody likes them. Nobody wants to be associated with them, at least nobody of note, and they're a laughingstock. And if you separate forced cancellation from self-cancellation, you'll see that certain individuals like Meghan and Harry, Amber Heard, Elizabeth Holmes, even Chrissy Teigen, someone that I've actually never covered on this channel before, who admitted to bullying a child and telling her to take her own life. All of these people were effectively cancelled a couple of years ago even, as far as I'm concerned. And they did it all to themselves. Speaking of Chrissy Teigen, who by the way is, like Amber and Meghan and Jada Pinkett Smith, basically famous for being married to a rich and famous man. Did you know that she once claimed to be very close friends with Meghan Markle? And aside from the child abuse that she admitted to, she also seems to have a penchant for targeting the elderly. Get a load of this tweet, where she needlessly and senselessly attacks Thomas Markle all the way back in 2018. So let me get this straight. We've got both Chrissy Teigen and Ellen DeGeneres, known bullies, both being BFFs with Meghan Markle. I suppose birds of a feather really do flock together. I know, maybe they should get matching bracelets where they can engrave a tally of every single person they've terrorized throughout their lives so they can compare high scores and feel better about themselves. Anyways, back to the topic. I said earlier that I've reconsidered my answer to the question that was posed to me, which is, after everything they've done, why aren't Meghan and Harry cancelled? And considering everything I've just said, as far as I'm concerned, they already are. They just refuse to accept that fact. Is there perhaps a way back for them? Well, as proficient self-cancellers of the highest order, I would say no. Because even under the aegis of the mighty WME, Meghan has entirely failed to rebrand herself for the umpteenth time because everyone can see through her facade and they don't like what they see. As the Japanese proverb goes, karma and shadows follow one everywhere. Speaking of Japan, I am actually currently there. Primarily for work, but of course I'm leaving aside some time for some sightseeing I've always wanted to visit. But I've been working on a couple of projects, hence why I've been missing for the past 2 weeks. And I'm a lone wolf. I do all the researching, scripting, filming, editing. And so it's proving to be quite bigger and more involved than I had anticipated, which is why I thought I'd release this quick video in the interim, just to keep you guys updated and yeah, just show my face, I suppose. I think my next video might be one of those projects that I've been working on here in Japan. It's something that took a lot of preparation and hard work on quite a tight schedule actually. So I really do hope you tune in because yeah, it's very different, but also not too different from the way I do things. And I really hope you like it. If you don't, well, I enjoyed making it. So Nah, I'm kidding. I really do hope you like it, and I hope to see you there. So yeah, until then, have a great weekend, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.